It was a bright spring morning when Lily Brown arrived at the Grand Crystal Hall. The sky was clear, and the soft sunlight made the marble walls of the building glow. The hall looked like something from a dream. The entrance was decorated with white flowers, golden ribbons, and crystal chandeliers that sparkled through the large glass doors. It was the perfect setting for her sister Emma's wedding. Lily stepped out of a small taxi and stood for a moment, taking a deep breath. She wore a simple blue dress and carried a small purse that she had bought years ago. Her shoes were plain but neat. She had done her own hair that morning, keeping it simple with a clip she loved. She looked elegant, though not in the way her family expected. She had never cared for expensive clothes or jewelry. When she entered the hall, the noise of laughter and music filled the air. Guests were dressed in rich clothes and sparkling jewels. The scent of perfume mixed with the smell of fresh flowers. Lily felt a small wave of nervousness as she walked through the entrance. She hadn't seen her family for years. After their father's death, she had gone her own way, choosing to build her life quietly, far from their judgment. As she walked inside, her cousin Ben noticed her first. He was standing near the refreshment table, talking loudly with a group of relatives. When he saw her, he smirked and said loudly, "Hope you can afford the dinner here, Lily." Everyone around him laughed. The words cut through her like a blade, but she didn't let it show. She smiled politely and said, "Nice to see you too, Ben," then she walked away calmly. Her Aunt Claire whispered to another guest, "She came in that dress?" At a wedding like this, the guest chuckled softly, and Lily could hear them even though they tried to whisper. She found an empty seat near the back of the hall, where she could quietly watch the ceremony. She placed her purse on the table and folded her hands, trying not to let their words bother her. The music started, and everyone turned toward the entrance. Emma, her sister, walked in wearing a beautiful white gown that shimmered under the lights. She looked happy and full of life. Lily felt her eyes grow soft. Despite everything, she loved Emma deeply. She was proud of her. For a moment, she forgot the whispers and the laughter and simply smiled at her sister walking down the aisle. As the ceremony went on, Lily's thoughts wandered. She remembered the old days when she and Emma used to play in the backyard, dreaming about their futures. Lily had always been the quiet one, more practical and thoughtful. Emma had been the dreamer, full of light and laughter. Their paths had gone in different directions, but Lily had always wanted the best for her. When the vows were exchanged, Lily felt her heart warm. She clapped softly with everyone else, though most around her didn't notice. She saw her mother sitting near the front row, pretending not to look her way. Her mother had never approved of her choices. Lily had left home young and started working at a small cafe, earning little but learning much. Over time, she had saved, studied, and built something special. But she had never told them. She wanted to build her life quietly, without showing off. After the ceremony, the guests moved to the dining area. Large tables were set with golden plates, crystal glasses, and shining silverware. Servers moved gracefully, carrying trays of food. Lily stood up slowly, unsure where to go. When she tried to take a seat near some cousins, they shifted uncomfortably. Ben gave her a mocking smile. "Don't sit here, Lily. This table's for family," he said. His tone was sharp but playful to others, cruel to her. She didn't argue. She simply nodded and found another table near the side, where a few empty chairs remained. As she sat, she noticed a young waiter nearby who gave her a kind smile. She smiled back, grateful for the small gesture of kindness. From across the hall, her mother glanced at her once, then quickly looked away. Her stepfather whispered something to her mother, and both of them chuckled quietly. Lily looked down at her plate, her mind calm but her heart heavy. She thought of how different they all were now. They measured worth by wealth, but she had learned that peace mattered more. As the night went on, she stayed quiet, listening to laughter and conversations around her. Sometimes she caught her name being mentioned. "She's still working small jobs," one relative said. "I heard she rents a room," another added. Lily sipped her water slowly and stayed silent. She didn't need to correct them. One day, the truth would speak for itself. Her sister Emma came to her for a short moment between dances. "I'm so happy you came," Emma said, hugging her. "You look beautiful," Lily smiled. "You look like a dream," she replied softly. Emma's kindness eased her heart a little. When Emma left again, Lily sat back and watched the crowd. Laughter, music, and clinking glasses filled the room. Though she sat alone, she didn't feel small. She had come far, farther than any of them knew. And while they laughed at her simple dress and quiet manner, she carried a secret that would soon change everything. As she watched her family from the corner of the grand hall, Lily's smile grew faint but steady. She wasn't angry or bitter. She was simply waiting for the right moment, the moment when they would finally see who she truly was. The reception was in full swing by the time Lily Brown found a quiet corner to sit. The grand crystal hall glittered with lights, laughter, and expensive smiles. Waiters in white uniforms moved between the tables, serving dishes that looked like art. Laughter echoed through the room, and the sound of cutlery on porcelain filled the air. Everyone seemed to belong there except Lily. She sat quietly, her hands folded on her lap, watching her family from a distance. Her cousin Ben was showing off his new watch to a group of guests. Her Aunt Claire was busy gossiping with other women, occasionally glancing at Lily with a smirk. Her mother, sitting near the front, avoided looking in her direction at all. Lily tried to keep her calm smile, though her heart felt heavy. When the waiter came to her table, he politely asked, "Miss, would you like some wine?" Lily shook her head. "Just water, please." The waiter nodded kindly and brought her a glass of water. Nearby, her cousin Olivia whispered to another girl, "She can't even afford a drink." Both giggled softly, thinking Lily couldn't hear. She did hear, but she simply took a sip of water and looked away. Around her, laughter grew louder. Music played, and people danced under the crystal chandeliers. Lily's blue dress looked out of place among the glittering gowns, but she didn't care. She had worn it because it reminded her of simpler days, the days when she had nothing but dreams and courage. She had worked hard to get where she was, even if her family still saw her as poor. A few tables away, her Uncle George raised his glass. "Let's all toast to Emma and her husband," he shouted. Everyone cheered and clinked glasses. Then, with a mischievous smile, he looked at Lily and said loudly, "And maybe Lily will find a job soon, so she can join us for real dinner next time." Laughter broke out again. Lily felt every laugh like a cold drop of rain. She forced a polite smile and said, "Thank you, Uncle. I'm happy just being here." Her calm voice made some guests shift uncomfortably. The waiter from earlier returned, quietly refilling her water glass. "Don't mind them, miss," he whispered kindly. "Some people talk too much." Lily gave him a soft smile. "Thank you," she said. His small kindness made her feel a bit lighter. The dinner began. Servers brought out trays of roasted chicken, steak, and fresh pasta. Lily waited for her turn, not wanting to draw attention. When her plate was finally served, she ate slowly, quietly enjoying the food. At another table, she heard someone say, "She looks so calm, like she doesn't even care." They were right, she didn't care. She had learned long ago not to let cruel words break her peace. Throughout the night, the family continued to ignore her. They took pictures together, but no one invited her to join. When Emma came to take a photo with her, everyone went quiet for a moment. Emma smiled warmly and hugged her. "I'm glad you came," she said softly. Lily nodded. "I wouldn't miss it." A few flashes went off, capturing a photo that would later remind everyone who had stood by the bride with real love. When the music changed, couples began dancing. Lily watched them, lost in thought. She remembered working double shifts to pay her bills, the lonely nights she spent studying, and the day she finally signed her first business deal. She had built something important, but she had done it quietly. Not out of pride, but out of peace. As the night went on, her cousin Ben came again, this time holding a glass of champagne. "So, Lily," he said with a teasing tone, "still living in that tiny apartment of yours?" Lily looked at him calmly. "I moved," she said simply. "Oh really?" Ben asked, pretending to be interested. "Where to?" A smaller one, he laughed again. Lily didn't answer. She didn't need to. Nearby, the hotel manager, Mr. Cooper, noticed the exchange. He was a tall man in a dark suit, watching from a distance. He had been observing the guests all evening, especially how they treated the quiet woman in the blue dress. He recognized her, though she hadn't said who she was yet. His respect for her grew with every passing moment. A little later, the family gathered around the dessert table. Chocolate fountains, fruit tarts, and cakes filled the space. Emma invited Lily to try some, and she went with her. The others watched, still unsure what to think of her calm presence. Ben whispered to another cousin, "I bet she's pretending to be fine." Lily heard that too, but again, she stayed silent. As she tasted a small piece of cake, Mr. Cooper approached her quietly. "Good evening, Ms. Brown," he said politely. Several heads turned at the sound of her name. "I hope everything is to your satisfaction." Lily smiled softly. "Everything's lovely, thank you." Ben and the others stared, surprised by the manager's formal tone. Mr. Cooper gave a respectful nod and added, "Your arrangements were handled perfectly as always." Then he walked away. A small silence fell over the group. Ben frowned, confused. "Your arrangements," he muttered. Lily said nothing, only smiled faintly. She knew the night was far from over. Soon, the truth would come out, and all their laughter would stop. As the night continued, the Grand Crystal Hall filled with louder music and brighter laughter. Lily Brown sat quietly, her calm eyes watching her family enjoy themselves. She had always known that coming here would not be easy, but she wanted to see her sister happy. That was enough for her. Her Uncle George, who had already drunk too much wine, began to tell stories from the past. His booming voice filled the hall. "Remember when Lily used to work in that small diner downtown?" he shouted across the table, laughing loudly. Some of the guests turned to look at her, amused. "Maybe she can help out in the kitchen tonight," he added. The crowd burst into laughter again. Lily looked up, her expression still calm. She took a slow breath before replying, "Thank you, Uncle, but I think the staff are doing a great job tonight." Her tone was soft but steady. The laughter died down for a moment, replaced by awkward silence. A few people shifted uncomfortably in their chairs. But Ben, always eager for attention, spoke again. "Oh come on, Lily, it's just a joke. Don't take it seriously." She smiled slightly. "Of course, Ben. I know." Then she looked down at her plate and continued eating quietly. Her grace made them even more uneasy. They wanted a reaction, but she refused to give them one. At the other end of the hall, the hotel manager, Mr. Cooper, continued to observe her. He was impressed by her patience and dignity. Few people could face such mockery and remain so calm. He had known powerful business owners who were far less composed. But Lily Brown was different, humble yet confident. He respected that. While dessert was being served, Lily's mother approached her table for the first time that evening. She looked elegant, wearing a sparkling silver gown and expensive jewelry. "Lily," she said in a cold voice, "why didn't you tell us you were coming? We could have arranged something more suitable for you." Lily looked at her mother gently. "I didn't want to trouble anyone," she said. "I'm happy just being here." Her mother gave a tight smile. "Well, I hope you understand that tonight is an important event for Emma. Try not to draw attention." She walked away before Lily could respond. Lily lowered her eyes and nodded quietly to herself. She was used to this kind of treatment. The evening carried on, full of toasts and dancing. Emma and her husband shared their first dance as a married couple. Everyone clapped and cheered. Lily smiled warmly, feeling proud of her sister. She clapped too, though no one noticed. When the music changed to a faster tune, guests filled the dance floor. Ben approached her again, grinning. "Come on, Lily, dance with us. Or can't you afford dancing lessons either?" He laughed, and others joined in. Lily stood up slowly, looked at him, and said softly, "No, Ben. I'm fine here." Her calm refusal made him frown. He shrugged and walked away. She sat back down and sighed quietly. The waiter who had been serving her earlier passed by and whispered, "You're doing great, miss." She gave him a grateful smile. Later in the night, as guests began to relax, the conversations grew louder. Lily heard someone mention her name again. "I still don't get why she came," one woman said. "If I were her, I'd be too embarrassed," another replied. "She probably wanted free food." Their laughter echoed faintly in her ears. She took another sip of water and stared at the shining chandeliers above her. Their light was soft and steady, just like her. Then, a small moment changed everything. One of the servers dropped a tray of drinks near Lily's table. Glasses shattered, and red wine spilled across the floor. Guests gasped, and the young server froze in panic. Before anyone could react, Lily stood up quickly and helped him pick up the pieces. "It's okay," she said gently. "Accidents happen." She handed him a napkin and smiled. "Just be careful of the glass." Her calm voice eased the boy's fear. He looked at her with gratitude. Mr. Cooper, who had witnessed the whole thing, walked over to the server and said, "Go clean up. I'll take care of this." Then he turned to Lily with a kind smile. "Thank you, Ms. Brown. You always handle things with such grace." The people around them froze. They had heard him clearly. Ben's smile vanished, and Aunt Claire stopped talking mid-sentence. "Ms. Brown," Ben repeated quietly. What did he just say? But Lily only smiled, as if nothing had happened. She nodded politely to Mr. Cooper and returned to her seat. The room fell into a strange silence for a few seconds before the chatter started again, softer this time. A few relatives exchanged confused looks. Something didn't add up. Why did the hotel manager speak to her like that, with such respect? Ben frowned, his earlier confidence fading. Lily's calm presence suddenly felt different, stronger. She didn't say a word, but in her silence, something powerful lingered, a quiet truth that none of them yet understood. Soon, the laughter that had once mocked her would turn into shock and regret. The night grew deeper, and the laughter inside the Grand Crystal Hall grew louder. The wedding celebration had reached its liveliest point. Guests danced, glasses clinked, and music filled every corner of the glittering room. But in one quiet corner sat Lily Brown, watching everything with calm eyes. She wasn't angry, just thoughtful. Her cousin Ben had grown restless again. Maybe it was the wine or his pride, but he couldn't resist another chance to mock her. He walked over to Lily's table with a crooked grin. "You've been sitting here all night, Lily. Too shy to dance? Or are you worried about the price of the floor?" His friends behind him laughed loudly. Lily smiled softly, unfazed. "No, Ben," she said kindly. "I just like watching others enjoy themselves." Her gentle voice seemed to irritate him even more. He wanted her to break, to defend herself, to react, but she didn't. That calmness was something none of them understood. Then, trying to show off, Ben grabbed a glass of juice from the table and spun around dramatically. "Cheers to our little dreamer cousin," he shouted. In his careless movement, the glass slipped from his hand and splashed directly onto Lily's dress. Red liquid spread across the soft blue fabric like a painful stain. Gasps rippled around nearby tables. Ben froze, pretending it was an accident. "Oh, sorry, Lily," he said with a mocking smile. "Didn't mean to ruin your lovely outfit." Laughter followed again, though quieter this time. Lily stood up slowly. Her hands trembled slightly as she looked down at her stained dress. Then she looked up at Ben and said softly, "It's okay. Accidents happen." Her calm tone made a few people lower their eyes in guilt. She picked up a napkin, dabbed at her dress, and excused herself politely. She walked out of the hall and toward the restroom, her back straight and her steps graceful. In the restroom, she looked in the mirror. The red stain looked terrible on her blue dress, but she didn't feel embarrassed. Instead, she smiled faintly at her reflection. "You've been through worse," she whispered to herself. She rinsed the fabric gently and did her best to dry it under the hand dryer. Her mind drifted back to the years she had spent working hard, how many nights she had gone without sleep, how many times people had underestimated her. None of this bothered her anymore. Outside, while she was gone, the laughter at the tables continued. Her relatives started whispering again. Aunt Claire said, "She shouldn't have come. She's just ruining the evening." Uncle George nodded. "Some people never change," Ben laughed, pretending to feel bad. "I said sorry, didn't I?" But his words carried no real regret. Meanwhile, near the main table, the hotel manager, Mr. Cooper, stood quietly, observing everything. He had seen the entire scene. His sharp eyes caught every smirk, every whisper, every cruel word. He knew who Lily really was, but he stayed silent. He respected her wish to keep it private for now. When Lily returned to the hall, her dress was still slightly damp but cleaner. She walked back to her seat with quiet confidence. Some guests looked away, feeling a hint of shame. Others pretended nothing had happened. Lily didn't look at any of them. She simply sat down, fixed her purse on her lap, and continued watching the dance floor. Soon after, Emma, the bride, noticed her sister sitting alone and came rushing over. "Lily. What happened to your dress?" she asked in concern. Lily smiled gently. "Just a little spill. Nothing to worry about." Emma frowned. "Was it Ben again?" Lily shook her head. "It's fine, Emma. Tonight's your night. Go enjoy it." Emma hesitated but nodded, trusting her sister's calmness. When Emma walked away, Lily's eyes followed her with warmth. She was truly happy for her sister. That happiness meant more to her than any insult or stain. She looked around the room again. Her mother was laughing with relatives, her stepfather was talking loudly, and her cousins were showing off their new clothes. Nothing had changed. They were still the same, and yet, Lily no longer felt small among them. The waiter from earlier came by again and quietly said, "You're handling all this better than anyone I've seen." Lily smiled at him. "Thank you. Sometimes silence speaks louder than words." He nodded, clearly admiring her composure. Not long after, Mr. Cooper approached her. "Miss Brown, is everything all right?" he asked respectfully, his tone gentle. Several heads turned at the mention of her last name. Lily nodded. "Everything's fine, Mr. Cooper. Thank you for checking." The way he addressed her made a few relatives exchange puzzled looks. Why was the manager speaking to her like that? But Lily gave nothing away. She remained serene. Mr. Cooper smiled slightly and walked away, but not before glancing briefly at Ben, whose expression had grown uneasy. The manager's quiet authority made everyone around the table sit up a little straighter. As the music played on, Lily took a deep breath and looked at the glowing chandeliers above her. She could feel the tension in the air shift slightly. Whispers had started again, this time softer, uncertain. Some were beginning to wonder who she really was. But Lily didn't rush the moment. She simply waited, knowing that soon the truth would reveal itself without her saying a word. She had learned that patience, not pride, was her greatest power. And tonight, that patience was about to change everything. As the wedding dinner continued, the laughter began to fade into softer conversations. The guests were full, the music slowed, and the grand crystal hall shimmered in a warm golden glow. Lily Brown sat quietly at her table, her calm eyes observing everything. The stain on her blue dress had mostly dried, but the mark still showed faintly. She didn't mind anymore. Her thoughts were elsewhere. She had been patient all evening, letting the cruel words and fake smiles pass without reaction. She wasn't the same girl they used to mock years ago. She had built something important, something they could never imagine. But she didn't need to prove it. Not yet. Mr. Cooper, the hotel manager, walked through the hall, checking on guests and staff. His movements were smooth and confident, but his attention kept drifting toward Lily. He knew her story well. Years ago, when she had first come to him with her plan, everyone thought it was impossible. But she had done it, quietly and brilliantly. From across the hall, her cousin Ben still watched her, trying to understand why the manager treated her with so much respect. He leaned toward his Aunt Claire. "Why does he keep talking to her like that?" he asked. Claire shrugged. Maybe he feels sorry for her, but deep down, doubt flickered in her voice. Soon after, the guests began preparing for the cake-cutting ceremony. Waiters rolled out a tall, white cake decorated with pink roses. The lights dimmed slightly, and everyone gathered near the stage. Emma, the bride, stood next to her husband, glowing with happiness. Lily stayed in her seat for a moment, unsure if she should join. Then Emma waved at her. "Come, Lily. You're my sister. You should be here too." Some relatives frowned but said nothing. Lily walked to the front slowly, her blue dress catching the soft light. She stood a little behind her sister, smiling as Emma and her husband cut the cake. Flashes from cameras lit up the room. The crowd cheered. Someone handed Lily a small piece of cake, and she thanked them politely. Just then, Ben leaned over and said under his breath, "Enjoy the free dessert, cousin." Lily looked at him for a moment but didn't respond. Instead, she turned to Emma and said, "It's beautiful. I'm proud of you." Her voice was calm and full of warmth. Mr. Cooper stepped closer to the stage, checking that everything was going smoothly. Emma noticed him and said cheerfully, "Thank you for such a lovely evening, sir." "The hotel staff has been wonderful." Mr. Cooper smiled politely and replied, "Thank you, Mrs. Taylor. But all the credit goes to our owner, Emma Brown." For a second, no one moved. The sound of soft music hung in the air like a thin thread. Then several heads turned toward Lily. Ben's smirk disappeared. Aunt Claire's jaw dropped. "What did he say?" she whispered. "Owner?" Mr. Cooper continued in his calm, professional tone. "Yes. Miss Lily Brown owns the Grand Crystal Hall and the 2 hotels connected to it. Everything you've enjoyed tonight, the food, the service, the setting, was arranged under her guidance." He gave Lily a respectful nod. She wanted everything perfect for her sister's wedding. The hall went silent. Even the music seemed to pause. Eyes widened, and mouths fell open. Ben's champagne glass slipped slightly in his hand. Her mother turned pale, frozen in her seat. Lily looked around the room quietly. She didn't smile in pride or speak in anger. She just stood there, graceful and calm. Mr. Cooper added softly, "We are honored to have her with us tonight." Then he stepped back, leaving the crowd to their shock. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Emma turned to her sister, eyes wide. "Lily, is that true?" Lily nodded gently. "Yes," she said. "I wanted your wedding to be special. I didn't tell anyone because it wasn't about me. It was about you." Emma's eyes filled with tears as she hugged her tightly. "You're amazing," she whispered. The family stood frozen in disbelief. Aunt Claire tried to smile but couldn't find the words. Uncle George coughed awkwardly, trying to change the subject. Ben looked down, his face red with shame. He finally understood that the woman he mocked all evening had more strength and success than he could ever dream of. Her mother approached slowly, her expression soft but uncertain. "Lily," she began, "why didn't you tell us?" Lily looked at her calmly. "Because I didn't need your approval anymore," she said gently. "I just wanted peace." Her mother's eyes lowered, guilt flickering across her face. The crowd began to whisper again, but this time, the tone was different. There was respect, and a little awe. Lily had said nothing cruel, yet her silence carried more weight than any speech. As the music started again, Emma held her sister's hand and smiled. "You've always been my role model," she said. Lily smiled softly. "No, Emma. I just learned to stand quietly until people saw who I really was." Around them, the once mocking relatives stayed silent. No one laughed anymore. They only watched Lily, who stood beneath the warm golden lights, calm, strong, and finally seen for who she truly was. The evening carried on, but everything felt different now. The guests spoke in hushed tones, their earlier laughter replaced by quiet admiration and awkward glances. Lily Brown stood with her sister Emma near the cake table, surrounded by flickering candles and the sweet scent of roses. Though the revelation had shocked everyone, Lily remained calm, her gentle smile unchanged. Ben lingered nearby, unable to meet her eyes. Moments ago, he had mocked her without mercy, but now his confidence had vanished. His mother, Aunt Claire, nudged him sharply. Go say something, she whispered. You embarrassed yourself. Ben hesitated, then took a deep breath and walked over. Lily, he began softly, I didn't know. I'm sorry for what I said earlier. She looked at him, her expression kind but steady. It's all right, Ben, she said. Sometimes people see only what they expect to see. I used to be like that too. Her words were calm, without anger, and that somehow made him feel even smaller. You worked hard for this, he asked quietly. She nodded. Yes. Every bit of it. I started with almost nothing. Nearby, Mr. Cooper stood by the door, watching proudly. He remembered the first time Lily had walked into his office, dressed in plain clothes, asking for a small loan to open a cafe. She had spoken with such quiet determination that he agreed to help her. Now, years later, she owned 3 of the city's most elegant hotels. Emma took Lily's hand, her eyes bright. You always said you were busy with work, but I never guessed it was this big, she said with a laugh. Lily smiled. I wanted it to be a surprise. Her sister shook her head in amazement. Well, you succeeded, they both laughed softly. Their mother, Mrs. Brown, approached slowly. Her hands trembled slightly as she reached out. Lily, I'm proud of you, she said. I didn't realize how much you've achieved. I should have listened to you more. Lily took her mother's hand gently. Thank you, Mom, she said. That means a lot. There was no bitterness in her tone, only peace. One of the hotel waiters passed by with a tray of drinks. Lily thanked him warmly, which caught the attention of a few guests. Despite being the owner, she treated everyone with respect. People whispered quietly about how humble she seemed. Ben returned to his table, his face still red. Aunt Claire sighed deeply. We misjudged her, she murmured. Uncle George nodded, staring into his glass. We sure did. The words hung heavy in the air. Emma's new husband, Ethan, joined the sisters, smiling politely. So, Ms. Brown, he teased gently, should I start calling you boss now? Lily chuckled. No, Ethan. You can still call me Lily. Titles don't matter much to me, he grinned. I can see that. You handled all this with grace. The band began to play a slow song. Couples drifted to the dance floor, and the lights dimmed slightly. Emma tugged on Lily's arm. Come dance with us, Lily laughed softly. Me? No, I'll just watch, but Emma insisted, pulling her forward. For the first time that night, Lily joined the crowd, moving gently with the music. She looked around at her family, some embarrassed, some proud, but all changed in some way. Mr. Cooper approached her briefly and said, You did well tonight, Lily. I've never seen a reveal handled with such calm. She smiled at him. Thank you. I didn't plan it that way, but maybe it was meant to happen, he nodded approvingly. You've built something wonderful. And you've earned every bit of it. As the song ended, Emma hugged her sister again. I hope you know how much this means to me, she whispered. You gave me the most beautiful wedding anyone could ask for. Lily's eyes softened. You deserve it, Emma. You've always believed in love, and that's something rare. The night was drawing to a close. The guests began saying their goodbyes, shaking Lily's hand respectfully as they left. Even those who had once looked down on her now spoke with genuine admiration. The same people who had mocked her hours earlier now treated her like someone special. As the last few lights dimmed and the music faded, Lily stood by the large glass windows, looking out at the city skyline. The reflection of the glowing chandeliers shimmered on the glass beside her. She took a slow breath, feeling the quiet peace she had worked so long to find. Emma walked up beside her. Are you happy? She asked softly. Lily nodded. Yes, she said. Not because they know who I am, but because I finally feel free. The sisters stood together, watching the city lights flicker in the distance. For the first time in years, everything felt right. The morning after the wedding was calm. Soft sunlight poured through the windows of the Grand Crystal Hall, now quiet after the long celebration. The decorations were being taken down, the music had stopped, and the scent of flowers still lingered in the air. Lily Brown stood near the window, watching the staff clean up. Her blue dress was folded neatly over her arm, and her hair was tied back in a simple ponytail. She felt peaceful. Everything that had happened the night before replayed in her mind, the surprise, the silence, the looks on her relatives' faces. For years, she had dreamed of a moment when she wouldn't be judged by her past or her clothes. And now, it had happened naturally, without her ever needing to say a word. Mr. Cooper entered the hall, carrying some paperwork. He smiled when he saw her. "Good morning, Ms. Brown," he greeted warmly. "You were the talk of the night," Lily laughed softly. "I didn't mean to cause a scene," he shook his head. "You didn't. You showed grace. That's what people will remember," she nodded, appreciating his words. Outside, the morning sun reflected off the hotel's glass walls. A few guests still lingered in the lobby, checking out or chatting quietly. Lily walked through the corridor, smiling at the staff as she passed. Many of them looked at her with new admiration, but she treated them as she always had, kind and humble. When she reached the lobby, she saw Emma and Ethan waiting near the door. Emma waved excitedly. "There you are. I thought you left early," Lily smiled. "No, just taking one last look around. I like quiet mornings," Emma hugged her sister tightly. "Thank you again, Lily. Last night was perfect." "I can't believe you kept such a big secret from me," Lily chuckled. "I wanted you to have your moment." "It was your special day," Ethan nodded. "You really gave her the best wedding ever." Their mothers soon joined them, looking more relaxed than the night before. "Lily, I've been thinking," she said softly. "Maybe we could all visit you sometime, at your other hotels," Lily smiled. "I'd like that, Mom." "You're always welcome," there was a hint of emotion in her voice, but also forgiveness. Ben approached awkwardly, his hands in his pockets. "Hey," he said quietly. "I meant what I said last night, I'm sorry. I didn't treat you right," Lily looked at him gently. "It's all right, Ben. What matters is that we learn," he nodded slowly. "If you ever need help with anything, just call me," she smiled. "Thank you. That means a lot." As they all said their goodbyes, Emma squeezed Lily's hand. "Promise me you'll take a break," she said. "You work too much," Lily laughed. "Maybe I will. Maybe I'll travel for a bit." "Good," Emma said, smiling. "You deserve to see the world." Later that afternoon, Lily walked alone through the quiet streets near the hotel. She passed a small cafe, the first one she had ever opened. The sign above the door still read Lily's Corner. A young couple sat inside, enjoying coffee and laughter. It made her smile. She remembered the early mornings, the long nights, and the hope that had kept her going when no one believed in her. She stopped at the cafe door for a moment, speaking softly to herself. "This is where it all began," she murmured. A passing breeze lifted her hair, and she smiled before walking on. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from Mr. Cooper. "Great job last night. We received multiple booking requests for the Crystal Hall after the wedding." "Congratulations," Lily replied with a small smile. "Thank you. Let's keep making people happy." That evening, she returned home, a quiet apartment overlooking the city skyline. She brewed a cup of tea and stood by the window. Below her, the city lights sparkled, each one representing a story, a dream, a journey. She felt proud, not just of her success, but of the woman she had become. As the night deepened, Lily thought of her sister, her family, and the new beginnings that awaited them all. For the first time in many years, she didn't feel like the outsider or the poor one. She felt whole, seen, respected, and free. Before going to bed, she opened her journal and wrote a single line: "Strength is quiet, but it changes everything." Then she smiled, closed the book, and let the peaceful silence of the night fill her heart. A few weeks had passed since the wedding. Life had settled back into its calm rhythm, but for Lily Brown, everything felt new. People who once ignored her now treated her with respect, and her family had started reaching out more often. Yet Lily remained the same, humble, gentle, and focused on her work. One Saturday morning, she sat in her office at the Grand Crystal Hall, reviewing upcoming event plans. Sunlight streamed through the tall windows, lighting up her desk filled with papers and flowers. There was a soft knock on the door. "Come in," she said, looking up. Emma stepped inside, carrying a small gift bag. "Surprise," she said cheerfully. Lily smiled. "Emma. What are you doing here?" "Just visiting my favorite sister," Emma said with a grin. She placed the bag on the table. "Open it." Inside was a framed photo of the two of them at the wedding, laughing together. Beneath it, a note read, "For the best sister and the strongest woman I know." Lily's eyes softened. "It's beautiful," she said quietly. Emma hugged her. "You deserve it." They sat together for a while, talking about everything, childhood memories, their parents, and the changes since the wedding. Emma confessed, "You know, Mom's been talking about how proud she is of you. She even showed your picture to her friends." Lily laughed softly. "That's new."
"Yeah,"
Emma said, smiling. "I think she finally understands." As they talked, Mr. Cooper knocked and entered politely. "Sorry to interrupt, Emma's Brown," he said, "but we just received a request from a charity organization. They want to host their annual fundraiser here. They said they were inspired by your story." Lily blinked in surprise. "By my story?" "Yes," he replied. "Word got around after the wedding. They said your journey represents hope and hard work. They want you to give a short speech at the event." Lily hesitated for a moment. Public speaking wasn't something she enjoyed, but she smiled and said, "All right. If it helps others believe in themselves, then I'll do it." Mr. Cooper nodded with pride. "You'll inspire many." He left the room quietly, leaving the sisters alone again. Later that evening, Lily walked through the hotel lobby. She paused near the entrance, watching families, couples, and guests moving in and out. It was busy, full of laughter and life, exactly how she'd always imagined it. She thought back to that day at Emma's wedding when everyone had mocked her, and she couldn't help but smile. Not because of revenge or pride, but because she had grown beyond it. As she stepped outside, the sunset painted the sky in shades of gold and rose. She took a deep breath, feeling the cool breeze on her face. Her phone buzzed with a message from her mother. "Dinner tomorrow? I'd love to visit your hotel and see you." Lily smiled softly and typed back, "I'd love that too." Walking down the path lined with flowers, she passed a group of young workers setting up for an evening event. One of them stopped and said, "Ms. Brown, we just want to say thank you. You're the best boss we've ever had." She smiled warmly. "Thank you. Just keep doing your best, that's all that matters." They grinned and went back to work. She continued toward the garden terrace, where lights were being strung for the night. The soft hum of activity filled the air. Standing beneath the fading sunlight, Lily looked around at everything she had built, not out of pride, but gratitude. For a long moment, she simply stood there, feeling the peace she had always searched for. No laughter behind her back, no doubts, no fear, just quiet strength. She whispered to herself, "It was never about proving them wrong. It was about proving to myself that I could." As the first stars appeared in the evening sky, Lily turned back toward the glowing entrance of the hotel she owned, the same place where they had once laughed at her. This time, the laughter inside was warm, kind, and full of joy. She smiled softly, her heart light and content. And as the doors of the Grand Crystal Hall closed behind her, it was clear that Lily Brown had finally come home, not to a building or a family, but to herself.